Set to sofa is where it's at. And Lulu, darling, just loves the chat. She talks to stars with grace and style. Lulu sure will make you smile.
Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to From Set to Sofa with Lulu. And I'm Lulu. If you've been enjoying these podcasts as much as I have enjoyed researching and doing them, then please tell your friends. Send a link and get the word out. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe to stay up to date, and feel free to leave your say in the comments section. We have some very interesting interviews coming up, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Now, I was so thrilled to chat with today's guest, as the journey he's been on is so interesting and complex. When only a child, being enamoured by a hypnotist and joining his show, later being kicked out of NIDA with other icons who have since made it big. Mind you, it could have been the best thing that happened. As John Hargraves once said to me, he made it in spite of NIDA. So there. He then travelled north, touring in theatre, experiencing life and even fighting racial prejudice, winning 3 Logies for Most Popular Actor and then an IF Award for Best Actor. And today he's making sure Australia theatre isn't lost. His philanthropy is extraordinary and his love for the theatrical arts is monumental. One of the founders of Australian Theatre Live, a stunning organisation making theatre enjoyable and affordable. Please donate if you are able to at australiantheatre.live with no gaps. This venture is so worthwhile. Without any further ado, let's get Grant Dodwell on the line. G'day, Grant, and welcome to From Set to Sofa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Look, it was so lovely catching up with you the other day at the reading of the One Day of the Year for the Actors Benevolent Fund.
Yeah.
You were terrific as Alf Cook,
Oh, thank you.
the central character.
Thank you, yeah. I must admit I had the advantage of having done it 4 years before
Wow.
for the Actors Benevolent Fund with Fiona Press and a few other people. And, it's funny with scripts. I mean, you do them and you think you totally forget them. But as soon as you launch back into the text, remnants have obviously remained with you. So I think I had that advantage. But it's a wonderful role. It's a great role.
Yeah. And particularly for a young bloke like you.
That's right. Yes. Oh, yes. Very good. But Alpha, because I do remember early Anzac days, and my dad only just was in the last 6 months of the war. He was in the Merchant Navy, and he worked on a ship that supplied post-war, after the peace had been declared, in ferrying round soldiers and supplies in New Guinea. And I remember him telling me that they had Japanese prisoners, not many, but 1 or 2 on their little tramp ship that was chipping away at rust and, doing painting and stuff like that. Maintenance on the ship, basically, yeah. So, Dad used to, as a lot of dads in my vintage, used to attend the Anzac Day memorial service, and Dad was heavily involved in the mission to seamen. So that's generally where we went.
Yeah, good.
So I had a lot of information and backstory to garner for Alf, for sure.
Yeah, well, it worked. It really worked. But maybe you could tell our listeners about the Actors Benevolent Fund, just a brief outline of why they're so important to us.
Yeah, look, we were actually going through some figures yesterday in the office, and about graduates from university and the particular jobs they end up and how well they're remunerated. And down the bottom of the pile was people in creative industries.
Yeah.
It's it is unfortunately, as is in a lot of countries, although some European countries are better. If you work in the creative industries, and you and I know this very well, you have your highs and lows. There are times where, the money does come into the bank, not a huge amount as people like to imagine.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there can be nothing.
Yeah.
And depending on how that has been managed over your creative life, there are times, and most recently I had a friend who had recently discovered they had cancer, and this stopped him from doing the little bit of creative work that he was doing that brought in the funding. In stepped the Actors Benevolent Fund. So
aren't they wonderful? Yeah.
They're just great, and they've helped so many people.
Yeah.
And there's no strings, it's private, it's confidential, and they do it so well with love in their hearts. It's one of the very best not-for-profits around, the Actors Benevolent Fund. And if anyone's listening who, has got a spare $5 bob, send it that way, because it does go truly to help people that have contributed to our cultural landscape for many, many years and not been remunerated as much as a lot of other professions.
I quite agree, and it's a wonderful, wonderful fund in society. So I'm not exactly sure when we first met. It may have been on a country practice. I did a couple of guest roles years apart.
No,
Do you remember?
No, do you remember that Henry Zepps played a disc jockey? It was a telly movie, I think. And you played like the assistant producer. I think I was there I was the assistant jockey. I'm sure it was you, because I remember thinking, wow, what a glamorous looking woman. Because honestly, I must have been, I would have been 22, 23, something like that. And
I would have only been 1 year older, please.
Yeah, that's right. But what I do remember, Lou, is that I slept in.
Yeah.
And I got a call. And fortunately, we were shooting in North Sydney or somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was late. And that's verboten, that's the worst.
Absolutely. Unless you're 5 minutes before the hour, you are late.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was the second assistant director or someone who sort of called me on a landline, And anyway, I leapt into a cab and that was all right. But I don't think we sort of, we probably conversed politely. I think it was perhaps on a country practice and maybe at one of the pub theatres.
Well, in actual fact, it could have very, very easily been one of the pub shows. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking Kirribilli. Would that be?
Oh, yes. Yes. Billy Hughes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps that's where.
I think so. But look, it was a lot easier to bump into people in those days. There were a lot less of us.
Yeah, it was a village, wasn't it? A village.
It was.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, we'd better get on with it, though, because
sure,
you have two daughters in London, and Celeste, your younger one, I believe, is currently working in theatre. Now, as a proud dad, what's it like watching your own family step into the creative world?
Well, look, because you know the business and you know how, really devastating it can be at times.
Yeah.
And conversely, you know how joyous it can be. And when you work with a company, you never forget them. And when you see them even 10, 15 years later, you have the same joy of seeing them again as you did, when you were working with them. It's a really amazing profession that way.
Isn't it?
And as a matter of fact, Celeste has just she's offered a job from Midsummer Night's Dream at the Chichester Festival in September. She's playing Hippolyta. So she just called me a couple of nights ago. But look, I knew that Celeste would do it really well because she came top of the stage in drama in her high school certificate, got one of the highest marks you can get in a high school certificate, doing all soft subjects, And I knew that when she went to LAMDA, the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, I knew that she would do well there. So what's brilliant is her partner, Ed Franklin, who is also an actor. He's filming this week in Budapest or somewhere like that. And Celeste just came back from Berlin after having done a Maigret, where she was shot twice.
Yeah.
She ended up with a little bruise on her arm, actually, she showed me.
Oh, so
And they've opened a bookshop called Funny Weather in Hampstead. It's a cafe bookshop. So that is supporting them, and that's something that, you know, she's done really well, and all of us know that we've all done various other work in order to keep us in the profession. But look, I'm really proud of her. She's done extremely well
absolutely
in London and has many friends. I mean, she's been there like 13 years.
Oh, it's a long time. Yes.
13, 14 years, yeah.
Oh, yes, she's English now.
She is. That's very true. My other daughter lives in Ramsgate, and I have 3 grandsons from age 8 to age 2 who live in Ramsgate by the sea.
Yeah, as opposed to our Ramsgate.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, you and I in a pre-chat. A bit of confusion around that. Yeah. But look, you're always hesitant about, you know, people.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when younger actors come up and say, oh, look, I'm really thinking about being an actor. And there's always that slight pause before you answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there, I understand, and particularly when you love them, you know.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Now, we'd better move on again, because you're involved with the Australian Theatre Live, which we'll talk about properly later. For listeners who are already curious, where can they go to find out about it?
Well, it's at, obviously, www.australiantheatre, one word, .live, L-I-V-E. That's it, no .com or .au. AustralianTheatre.live, and that takes you to our website, and then you click another click and it'll take you to our streaming platform, which is stream.australiantheatre.live. But once you go to the website, it'll give you an information, who we are, and there's a donation page there. We're a fully fledged not-for-profit, totally tax-deductible DGR status.
Marvellous.
Yeah, so that's Australian Theatre Live, yeah.
Marvellous. Now, before we get to the fame, the Logies, the hospital corridors, the Wombat and all the wonderful Australian television history, who was young Grant Dodwell? I mean, did you have an early calling to acting, or did it sneak up on you?
No, there's a funny story around this, because I moved around a lot because my father, being a master mariner, was a pilot, and then he was harbour master in Port Kembla and Newcastle, and then back down in Sydney, and then became harbour master Sydney Harbour. And so we moved around a lot, and I guess it was really, you know, I did my little bit as you do in primary school and all that, but it so happened that in Wollongong, the church that we attended, which was Mount Ousley Anglican Church, my mum was born and raised in China, Salvation Army missionary parents. So mum, you know, insisted that we went to Sunday school, which I think was great.
Yeah, me too.
And I'd go to all different. I went to Baptist, Presbyterian, because Dad said, well, you got to go to the nearest one. I'm not driving you. So anyway, they had a fete, St Albans had a fete in Mount Ousley, and they had tents around with various, you know, like a full church fete, and, you know, crafts and all that. And in one tent, there was a magician hypnotist. And of course, I lived you could jump over my fence from my backyard into the church. So I jumped over as I was setting up and was fascinated. And this hypnotist magician said, hey, does anyone know where you can get a dove? I need a white dove. And I went, okay, buddy, I'll get you one. Yeah. So I knew that there were pigeon fanciers in my neighbourhood, and I got one. I went to a pigeon fancier, said a magician needed it. He gave me the little box with the white pigeon, and of course the magician was over the moon.
Wow.
You know, he just said, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. And
he was a hypnotist as well. So I hung around with him all morning until the afternoon, where he did about 4 shows. And in the audience in the little tent, he would ask for volunteers to come up to be hypnotised. So I got up and felt as though I was sort of hypnotised, but, you know, said, now you're a chook, now you're a duck, now you're this, now you're that. Now you're Frank Sinatra. And I thought, this is great fun.
Oh,
So I did all that. And would you believe that they invited him back because he was such a big hit?
yeah.
And he said to them, yes, I'll come back, but I want that young blonde boy to be in the show.
Oh, how wonderful. And were you?
Yes, I was. Yeah. I mean, look, that was just a silly bit of I think I was 11 or 12. But it wasn't until high school that I saw Gary McDonald on tour when I was at Whitebridge High in Newcastle. They did excerpts of Shakespeare. Gary's wife, Di. Who else? A couple of other actors, Di Craig.
Oh, lovely Di Craig, yes.
And they did it, and I was just hooked. And then in Forest High School, Barry Barkler, he was a NIDA, and I remember them doing warm-up backstage because I was lighting boy at Forest High. So I watched them do all these breathing exercises. And I thought, this is great. And they did Antigone, I think, or like a shortened version. So look, that just led me on. And then I auditioned in year 11 for NIDA.
Yeah.
And they said to me, look, finish your high school certificate, come back. I did, and I got in. So I was like 18 in NIDA a long time ago. Yeah, so, really it was something that evolved, I guess, over time. And I played guitar and I was in bands and, all of that. But my grandfather, who I never met, he was a Salvation Army minister, and apparently his sermons were fabulous. He was a really good performer. And I know that on Dad's side, younger brother Noel was the funniest raconteur you'd ever met. So, there was the impetus was there, I guess, with personality.
Yeah, yeah. And in your DNA too, obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what was the biggest shock when training ended at NIDA and the professional reality began? I mean, how did you handle the uncertainty between jobs, when the phone didn't ring?
I did. I worked with Queensland Theatre Company because I was actually booted out of NIDA because in those days it was a 2-year course and they took in 35 students knowing that 50% had to go. They don't do that anymore. And Belinda Giblin, Paula Duncan and myself were all asked to leave.
And funnily enough, guess what?
Yeah. That was Andrew McFarlane's year and Johnny Jarrett, Angela Punch McGregor.
Wow.
So I left that first year and hitchhiked to Brisbane with a mate who's now a distributor in LA. And Frank Gallagher was an actor who...
I remember Frank very well.
Yeah, he left us sadly. And I had met him a couple of times when I was at NIDA and had very late nights talking about acting and the business. And then he was in The Legend of King O'Malley in Brisbane. And we couldn't hitchhike any further. We were hitching up to Cairns and there were floods that year. So we were stuck. And I looked in the newspaper and it said, The Legend of King O'Malley with Geraldine Turner and Frank Gallagher. And I went, well, I know Frank. So with our last money we had in the Commonwealth Bank, we went to see the show. Anyway, Frank said, come back to my apartment. And we pitched our tent in the apartment and we were there for a week and a half.
Oh.
Meantime, Frank organised an audition for me for the Theatre and Education. Alan Edwards was the artistic director, and he said, right, you were kicked out of NIDA? That's excellent. I want you to join Queensland Theatre Company. So I hitchhiked back home, and within a month I was on a plane heading up to Queensland where I worked for 18 months. And there were times where I wasn't in the next show, and I worked backstage at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I went strawberry picking. I was a supernumerary in the opera when the opera used to tour. The wardrobe guy'd come in and throw all the wardrobe down for the extras in the opera on the floor, and he'd say, whatever you fit in, that's your role.
No.
And,
No.
yeah.
Oh, how gorgeous.
Yeah.
But all those other jobs were fodder for acting anyway because your observations of what was going on, you know?
Yeah. Back in Sydney, it was Sydney wide.
Mm.
You know, I worked in the photographic area. But see, we were so lucky. In those days, I mean, I got that job and, you know, I talked about what I was doing and they said to me, well, if you get an audition, you just go.
Mm.
You know, there was no question. And I'd say, I've got a screen test. And they'd go, oh, good. How did you go, you know?
Mm.
Do you want me to come back? Nah, come back and see you tomorrow. You know, we put down the hours so they knew it. But it was just things seemed a bit easier in those days.
They certainly were. They certainly were. And simple.
Yeah, and so getting work was a lot easier too. And so I did all sorts of jobs. You know, I was doing radio plays at ABC. I did Skyways. I did the Second Last Homicide. I remember doing the Second Last Homicide because my dear friend Kevin Dobson passed away recently.
Yeah.
And he did the very last one where he was always saying, gee, we missed, because I met him a lot later during a country practice, but we missed each other by one episode on Homicide all that year. And I did ABC with Tom Burlinson, Top Mates, Patrol Boat I did for the initial season with Andrew McFarlane and Danny Adcock. So there was a lot of television, a guest role for many years, yeah, and theatre.
Well, there was even you had a guest role in Kirby's Company where I was playing Jennifer Kirby.
That's right.
Yeah. What do you remember about that production?
Kirby's Company. Now, who was...
Yeah. That was Tom Burlinson.
That's right.
Vince Martin and Willie Fennell.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, it was fantastic.
Now, that's the one Chris Thompson directed.
Yes.
Chris Thompson.
Chris Thompson, yeah.
He went on to be a lecturer in Canberra. And I remember, I think I was punched. I was a vagrant. I was living in a squat house or something.
Oh, you might have done the episode with Joey Samuel.
I think I might have.
Yeah, because I remember her being a squatter or something in the show.
That's right. And Tom Burlinson comes across us or something.
Right.
And was it Willie Fennell punched me? I think it might.
More than likely. Gosh, what a gorgeous guy he was.
And as a matter of fact, it's coming back to me now because someone was talking about Callan Park, a ride, and Willie had his own van.
Right.
He used to make cups of tea out of them. Do you remember that? Not really?
Oh, it's a bit of a vaguely.
Well, no, look, I think we were on location in Callan Park.
Yeah.
Because there was a house there that was empty, you know, with an overgrown backyard and all that.
Right.
So that became the squatters thing.
Yeah, no, you see, I wasn't on that shoot.
Well, I remember the black eye and the stunty guy working it out. And I've got an old Polaroid. Polaroids had just come in and there's a Polaroid of me with my black eye. So Kirby's Company, it's connected now. You mentioned Willie Fennell.
Yeah. Australian theatre in those days did move fairly quickly. How did the pace shape you as an actor?
Look, I think that initial stage, although I didn't have major roles at Queensland Theatre Company, I mean, we used to do 3.5 weeks rehearsal while we were doing the show that we'd rehearsed before, you know, so it was, you know, that theatre where, you know, there wasn't any gaps. You went on to the next show. And I toured Queensland with You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, for 10 weeks with Carol Burns and Jeffrey Rush playing Snoopy.
Wonderful.
And we did one-night stands, you know, like we'd play halls. I remember going from prompt to OP, we'd have to run outside and there was a tethered cow that we had to run around to go from one side of the stage to the other.
Yeah.
And then I think it was in Julia Creek, a cane toad jumped onto the stage and upstaged everybody.
Oh, God.
So, you know, we had an Arts Council bus with a set in the back, seats in the front. And I remember emus running alongside the van, Miles, Mitchell, Roma, Mount Isa, you know, across to Cairns. And, you know, 10 weeks. That really was, a discipline that was there.
And performing for younger audiences, did that sharpen your timing and instincts?
Yeah, well, I mean, with Charlie Brown, that was an adult show, but I did then move on to theatre and education. I did a 16-week tour with Margie McRae
Yes, I remember Margie. Yeah.
and still my partner at the moment, Sean.
Mm.
So it was me, Margie and Sean, two young women and myself with 4 8x4 rostrums and a sound system. And we did 3 shows a day in high schools, and we drove 100 miles between each show. 16 weeks on the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you think about it, it's exhausting, isn't it? I mean, the stamina and the discipline, everything else.
But Lou, I'd come back and I'd be the only actor with a bank balance.
Yeah.
Because
you were banking.
I was saving and just on the road, and our accommodation was paid for. And, look, so many stories about being on the road with 2 young women and blokes looking at me and looking at, what, you got 2 women, have you, mate? You know, we'd have to sneak out of hotels and we'd be followed by groups of men, and it was pretty full on right out west.
Yeah.
And in Burke, because we'd arrived there with the station wagon with Arts Council New South Wales on the side, they would always send the lower class to help unload the van, you know, or the car. And I would always say, well, all those students who helped are in for free. You know, I was a nominal like $1 or 50 cents, but still they had to pay. But I would say they're all coming in for free, no problem. And all schools went, yeah, no problem. Oh, they'd love it. They'd love to see it. In Burke, I remember they unloaded the van and we're in a local hall, not in the school hall. And I said to the teacher, right, all of those kids, and there were a lot of Aboriginal boys, are coming in for free. And he went, nah, they're not coming in. I went, they just physically unloaded the setup and all that.
Yeah.
And that's part of that's our policy.
Yeah.
No, you don't want them bastards there. No way.
No.
And I went, well, no, they're coming in. You know, it was interesting. It was a thing that it was just unfair. You know, they just done all this work. Anyway, he said no, and I went, I'm calling the Arts Council. So I got into a phone box, and I think it was Robert Love was working for the Arts Council then, and I was halfway through going, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go on, because I said to him, well, we're not going to do the show.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, that's all right, I'll take the students all back. And I went, you know, it was a real... Anyway, as I was halfway through the conversation to the Arts Council in Sydney, which took me a while to get through, it was a trunk call and all of that.
Sure.
There was a tap, tap, tap on the breeze, and he went, rightio, they can come in, they can stand up the back. Anyway, they stood up the back and watched the show.
That sounded very, very racial too.
It was, yeah. Well, in those days, I'm talking mid-70s, you know.
Yeah, yeah. White Australia policy, etc.
That was the last one I did.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I did theatre and education, Melbourne Theatre Company with Jonathan Hardy was the director with Greg Shears, and that's Tim Elston was doing that thing, Kerry Walker.
Yeah.
That wasn't quite as distant because it was the only thing, but in the meantime, I, you know, sort of did all sorts of bits and pieces. But after I'd done that, working at the pub theatre, the White Horse Pub Theatre, which was...
I remember you doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that was Brian Brown initially.
Yeah.
And then the lady in Tasker, John Tasker, came in and directed for a while. And it was packed. People used to bring buses from Wollongong and Newcastle to see that show. $2.50 to get in, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Amazing.
Yes. That was an incredible time actually doing that.
Was pub theatre more artistically freeing, more frightening, or a bit of both? What do you think?
I think it was a bit of both, Lou. I think what gets me today is the pub theatre that we did was hugely political.
Yes.
I mean, we did the Jubilee, the Silver Jubilee show.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had Robert Davis made up in whiteface as Her Majesty.
Yep.
I played Prince Charles. Jennifer McGregor was Princess Anne. And we sent it up. I mean, then we did the Billy Colley Follies and we had John Laws. So it was a political statement that were being made within review, a political review. You don't see much of that nowadays. I mean, sure, stand-up comics will do.
The Wharf Review.
Oh, that's certainly the Wharf, which is now finished, sadly.
Yes, sadly. Gosh.
But, the Wharf Review carried on that tradition.
Yeah, yeah.
And I walked past that pub at Woolloomooloo where they sort of started. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean just the Wharf Review are fantastic, but this was really gutsy pub theatre.
Pub, I remember. Yeah.
The RSL show.
Oh, I certainly remember that.
We wouldn't be able to do the RSL show nowadays.
No.
An afternoon in the RSL show.
Politically incorrect.
That's right. We had pokies down the front and the gaming squad. Someone had dobbed us in saying, no, they got poker machines. Well, the poker machines didn't work. You could pull the handle, but, you couldn't put money in or anything like that. But, the licensing squad came in on opening night, raided the joint.
Wow.
Yeah. But, look, all of that was just, that's reminiscing. And as a younger actor, those opportunities presented themselves.
And lots of fun. But then came, for you, the Young Doctors.
Yeah.
With you as Dr. Sam Wilkinson. How did that role come to you?
Oh, my goodness. Well, it's really interesting. I had friends from high school who I'm still friends with today. The last high school I went to, the Forest High. And they all traversed through Africa, some of them up to London, and they all camped down in London as you did in those days. But I was acting, I was still doing work, so I didn't do that. So I caught up with quite a few of them who were in LA doing Top of the Pops films. So they were filming in London and then editing in LA. And so I went to America. And I must admit, as a young person, I always thought, Australia, it's bigger and better overseas, and more particularly in America.
Sure.
So I went to LA and I worked on film clips. We shot Prince. I did Prince's first LA release song. He wasn't the Prince that you went on to know. I mean, he was the same performer. All I remember about Prince, I thought, God, he's so disciplined. And that we filmed in the old Desilu studios. We did Earth, Wind and Fire, the Pixies and Billy Thorpe. Yeah, all in that time, and edited. And so I spent all this time in LA. Then I went to New York for a month. And Brandon Burke, the actor?
I don't know him, but I know of him.
Yeah. Would you believe? Oh, just walking around New York, we bumped into each other.
Yeah.
Totally random. Anyway, that's another story. But I virtually came back going, we're just as good, if not better, here in Australia than
absolutely.
Actors are the same everywhere.
Yep.
There's good, bad, indifferent. Same with directors, producers, stories. So I had a renewed energy and a sort of a bit of a wild-eyed energy. And I do remember auditioning for Young Doctors because the character I went for wasn't Sam Wilkinson. It was some mad patient. So he ended up sort of saying to my agent, no, look, I love him, but I want him to do Sam Wilkinson. So I came in and did that for a short time. God, I look about 12, came across a photograph of me and, I look like that Doogie Howser character.
Oh, gorgeous. Yeah. Wow.
So young.
I know. Weren't we all in those days?
That's right. That's where we went. We filmed Willing and Able in that same studio, in the Young Doctors studio.
Yeah.
That's where we did our interiors for that series, Willing and Able,
Wow. Getting back, though, to Young Doctors, how quickly did you have to learn the rhythm of serial television, working on your instinct?
Pretty quick. And that, I guess, put me in good stead for a country practice, although I wasn't in Young Doctors for that long, but long enough to understand how it turned. I mean, there was that funny little green room at the end there. And
with all the mould.
Yeah, that's right. The mouldy green room.
Oh, God, yes, I remember that.
The mould matches the colour on the wall.
Yeah, it was green.
Yeah, and I know. But one thing I do remember was the camaraderie. I mean, everyone got on so well and,
yep.
Sort of there was a care there for how you going? And, you know, can I help you with your lines? There was a bit of that.
Yep.
So that was an introduction, because that certainly happened, you know, when I joined a country practice. Every guest artist was welcomed and, you know, join us for lunch and how can we help? And, oh, if you want to do this, do that, you know.
Yeah.
It became like a regular thing.
Well, tell me, how did a country practice and Dr. Simon Bowen come about? Take us back to the beginning, you know, when you were told about the role. And
Well, it was just one of those roles that, you know, this is another series coming up. It wasn't like touted as a big series, because as a matter of fact, after the pilot, a lot of the executives gave it the thumbs down, and it was only the managing director who put his foot down. No, this was Channel 7, because it was James Davin's company who had produced, he did country, but he'd done Patrol Boat and all of that with Ray Alshan. And I think I did a screen test with one actress, and I can't remember who, and then they called me back. This is at Channel 7. And there were 5 actresses I did the screen test with. One of them was Penny Cook.
Yeah, what a gorgeous woman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's very, very, very sad.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a scene out of the pilot, and it was set in the veterinary studio and the veterinary surgery, and they had a stuffed English sheepdog, the life-size stuffed English sheepdog on the vet table. And the scene was my character asking Vicky the vet out, Penny's character, saying, how about dinner tonight? Well, what about next week? Well, hang on. Well, what about the week after? No, Simon, you know, all of this. And I'd go under the body and under the tail and, you know, followed around. And there was a chemistry there. But the one thing that was convinced them was that with most every actress, I would invade their personal space. They would be moved back. They would recoil. With Penny, I invaded her personal space and she moved forward.
Oh, how beautiful.
I said no.
Oh, special.
We had so much work together over that period of time. And you know, I remember, you know, we had 20 minutes of scenes in Simon and Vicky's unit, you know. 20 minutes of dialogue.
I know.
And they'd say, tapes away, and I'd be go, hang on, because I'd be just getting to the last 4 lines of the script, you know, before I ran on and we did it. Because, you know, if it was a 3-minute scene, you'd shoot 3 minutes. Or you'd do, you know, you might do a pickup. They'd say, okay, the first minute and a half's okay, we'll do a pickup. But generally speaking, because of camera positions and cutting and editing, they really would say, well, okay, let's take it from the top. The cutaways were simply answering phones. So they'd do a close-up on you picking up a phone or jabbing a needle into someone's arm. They were the pickups that went in later. But most of the time you did it all in one go with 3 cameras dancing around the set.
That's right.
Repoing and getting all the different positions, you know. I only did it for 3.5 years, but it was some of the best 3.5 years of my life.
I thought it was 6 years that you were on it.
No,
Toted as
3.5.
3.5. Yeah.
3.5 or 4, maybe, I think.
Tell me, though, Grant, how did you make Simon not too perfect? You know, what did you bring beneath the surface and the charm and the decency? How did you make him more human?
I think it was very big heart. So he had a lot of filters that, you know, because he was a boy from the city and from a well-to-do family, he had filters that when they were undone, and Vicky did that a lot of the time, was Simon, he would then admit to the heart that existed underneath all these this veneers at times. And I love the slight comedic aspect that we brought to it. You know, I think the beauty of a country practice is I think any viewer looked at it and thought, this cast really enjoys what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And that's true. And that had a lot to do with Jim Davin. Lynn Bionis was just fantastic. Helen Steele. It was a female crew on a country practice. The writers, the creators. There were more male directors, although we had a couple of women directors, female directors, who still work to this day in the business. And I think that was due to Lynn Bionis. And who, as a producer, just was way ahead of her time as far as women in the business because, in those days it was still a very blokey part. Certainly crews were very blokey.
They certainly were.
The only females were continuity.
Right. Yes. Continuity.
It was always a female doing continuity.
Yeah.
But, it's assistant cameras and all that, which nowadays when we hire a crew, the best we find assistant cameramen or cameramen are women,
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
The tide has turned.
Yeah.
Now, can you remember a behind-the-scene moment from a country practice that fans would love to hear about?
Look, there are so many, but
Yeah.
I think I told the story, and it's a heart and soul story, and about Penny, and it sort of summed up Penny because at her memorial service, there were people that had nothing to do with the business who got up and talked about Penny. Who a lot of them at one stage said, I didn't realise she was an actress for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I remember after the wedding episode, it was a really long day. And, if it was a big scene, people would say, no, don't drive, we've hired a bus, So, I remember after that wedding scene, it was quite late at night. There were 2 bottles of warm champagne that had been given to us by something. And Penny had scored all these. There was about 15 people on the bus, maybe 12 or something. Well, extras, you name it. And Penny had scored these plastic cups, and she said, Dodwell, come with me. And we opened it up and we poured, and everyone had a glass of sip of champagne on the rickety old bus that thundered back to the studio.
Yeah.
There was one scene where Penny and I are in the MG, Vicky and Simon, and they're heading to Burrigan for a big night out. And I'm in a dinner suit. Penny's dressed up to the nines, and she spots this cow stuck in the mud. Stop the car, Simon. Stop the car. We've got to help that cow. I'm going, what? Don't be ridiculous. Anyway, it cuts to Penny in a slip and me in my underband in this mud helping this cow out, with a rope and all that.
Yeah.
And, of course, the payoff is that Simon slips in the mud and falls in the mud, and Vicky laughs, as you do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think Penny had an actual wedding to go to that night or something, or some important thing. And there's no portable showers or anything. So we jumped on the back of one of the camera crew's ute and they drove us down to the Hawkesbury River. And we went in the river and washed ourselves.
No.
Yeah.
How gorgeous.
Put our clothes back on.
Yeah.
And I jumped in the car and drove home, and Penny jumped in her car and drove. And she said, people all night were sort of giving me a bit of a sniff.
No.
Because they were unsure. I mean, I got home and had a hot shower, but that was a funny time.
Very funny. But listen, you won 3 Logies for Most Popular Lead Actor for Dr. Simon Bowen. What do you remember about the first win?
The very first one. I remember the first Logies we went to was with Brian Wenzel and Lorraine. They're the only ones.
Yeah, I remember Wenzel.
They sent us down there. There was one at the State Theatre. I remember that was the last one, I think. And the very first one. Look, it's always joyous.
Yeah.
In those days, people had to fill in the form.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, nowadays it's online and all of that. But in those days, people had to buy the magazine, cut out the form, fill it in and mail it.
Oh, wow.
That's how they voted.
I'd forgotten that, yeah.
Look, I remember that sometimes the parties were combined, other times they were a Channel 7 party, and someone might say, come to the 9 party, it's better, or the Channel 10 party. But look, the early Logies were, the cock shop people.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were there any days, they looked after us. We were guests in Melbourne. And when they came to Sydney, they were our guests. There was a lot of, strong friendship if you were working in a series in those days.
Yes, there was.
People who didn't know you would come over and say, look, I really love your work and what you do. I'm sure that happens nowadays, but there's a slight, I guess, scepticism that surrounds it now. whereas it was sheer joy
Yeah.
in the 80s, you know. You'd get your big Logies invitation, you know. That was a big thing. It arrived by mail. And, you know, you knew your Prue McSweens and your David Browns who were always doing... I mean, we would go from the studio and do a TV Week cover, Penny and myself, and they'd say, can you stay in your makeup? You know, because there was no makeup or anybody there.
Yeah.
Can you stay in your makeup? And then they'd take you out for lunch. And that lunch, they were momentous.
Yeah.
You know, you'd see the people coming in for dinner and you're still at the lunch table, you know.
Now, did fame ever narrow people's imagination of what else you could do as an actor, though?
Yeah, look, unfortunately it did. I think not so much what you can do, but how the viewer would perceive you in a different role.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there are certain actors that didn't have any problem with that. I mean, Georgie Parker is fantastic. And Georgie moved from sort of series. I mean, she was in a country practice for a long time too. But I think it's probably different nowadays, but I was offered 2 series lead roles, and one of them was Medivac.
Mm-hmm.
And I dyed my hair. I had sort of haircut, shot back and sides. I was playing this eccentric doctor, which the late Nick Eadie actually ended up doing. But I remember Jim Davin, my agent, because the director called me saying, we've found our character. We've found our eccentric doctor. Thank you, thank you. And I went into the agency and said, great. And it was shooting in Brisbane, which was, you know, a bit of a hassle, but I thought, no problem, that's great. And James Laurie said to me, Granty, just hang on. The network haven't approved it yet. And I went, well, what are you talking about? The producer. Then I got a message saying, can you get some black and white stills done for a board meeting?
Gosh.
So I got some black and white stills done, sent them in as the character, and then a week later it came back and said no. They reckon that as soon as you work on screen, people are going to go, oh, there's the doctor from a country practice.
Yeah. Yes, all that popularity and fame can go against you, can't it?
Yeah. I think nowadays it may be different, and it depends on the character and the role. But, I mean, I just headed to stage.
Yeah.
You know, I did some hoary old farces, and I did Anything Goes with Simon Burke and Geraldine Turgey, Maggie Kirk, Peter Whitford, and that was a major national tour, singing and dancing. I did Sunset Boulevard with Hugh Jackman. So, you know, I always did the occasional guest role. Yeah. But I'd never... Because we went on and did Willing and Able after a country
Well,
practice.
Exactly. How did that come about, that opportunity?
Well, you know, Lynn Bionis and Shane and myself and Ted Roberts and Helen Steele, we went away for a weekend and this idea came up because Seven was saying, oh, we're going to do a sitcom series with Simon and Vicky, and that never came about. And it was always, no, we're going to do it. Not a sitcom, but something like that with Simon and Vicky, a spin-off.
Yeah.
And that never eventuated. So we then went to Harry and Miller. He jockeyed all the networks up, and 9 picked up Willing and Able. They said they wanted 13 one-hour episodes on video. We went, and again in those days, had a big lunch with Sam Chisholm and David Leckie in the boardroom. And our aim was to say, why are we only doing 13 and why are we doing it on video? You know, in America, they shoot on film. Yeah. And Homicide shoot on 16 mil. So when we left that lunch, we were doing 26 episodes on 16 mil. But Alan Bond, he was using 9 as a cash cow, basically. So we were penciled in for a second series. We did 26 eps, but they rushed us. They wanted us to be on air within 2 months. And Lynn initially said, no, we can't do it. And they said, well, you're not doing the series then. So I think out of the 26, there were 13 good ones, really.
Oh, what a shame.
I've looked back on it and it was a combination of drama and comedy.
But working with Shane Withington, again, must have brought a built-in rhythm and, for your existing friendship.
Yeah. I mean, that whole Young Doctors studio had the interior of the ferry and Pisani's nightclub and an alleyway. You know, these guys came in and laid a laneway in the studio with the guttering and everything, and that used to double up for, all sorts of scenes. But primarily we shot around King's Cross and all around Sydney. And when you look at it, it really was beautifully shot. The music was all original, but it was an expensive series. We were due to go to San Francisco for CBS to do a promotion for 3 episodes to be screened and do promotion work. And Bond was really floundering and, people were, fleeing the sinking ship. And, it was cancelled.
Yeah, what a shame. But then came the men's group. Now, that was very, very different, that kind of project. How did that film find you?
Well, I had started a business that utilised actors in corporate communication training.
Yep.
And a few people use it nowadays. It all started with me with using Bowen theatre or forum theatre, meaning we would write a scenario, a 10 to 15-minute play, pertaining to their business, not about their business. The actors would perform it for the corporate and the participants who were staff members of this company. And then they would stay in role and questions would be asked of the characters in role. One character would be chosen and they would give tips to, and we would redo the scene and improvise the scene. So the questions in role and the improvisation was something that I had done a little bit of, but over that 15 years of working in that corporate area really had become second nature to me.
Yeah.
Improvisation.
Yeah.
And I met Michael Joy and John L. Simpson, and they were getting together a film called Men's Group, which was all improvised.
Wow.
With massive backstories written and rehearsals which were particular scenes.
Wow.
So it was like a 6-month workshop basically that went on.
But the film asks men to speak so honestly, which can be more frightening than any stunt sequence, really. What did it demand of you personally to access that emotional territory?
I guess it's really interesting because there was elements of Alf, talking about the one day of the year.
Yeah.
There were elements of Alf in that character. He was a modern man, separated from his wife and child, a very old school, really could not get in touch with his inner feelings. I remember it was a very tough shoot, and at one stage I thought I was having a heart attack.
Really?
After the shoot. And my daughter, who had a learner's permit, drove me up to the doctor. And he was one of these young doctors who did a tick by boxes. So he thought, it is a heart attack. So I remember I got an ambulance up to the hospital. But it wasn't. It was just a really bad reflux.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
It burnt my esophagus and then set pain up in the top area. So I had that day off and, we continued on. But look, I think there was quite a bit of the work I did which was on succession farming. I did some work for Armidale University for Ros Foskey about success farming and suicides in farming. And I wrote scenarios and similar to the Bowen Forum Theatre where we would perform. Genevieve Moy came with me once, played my wife. We'd do a little 20-minute play, just where we are, no set or anything, just a few props, and then questions in role. And then there would be suicide prevention crews that would come with us, or succession planning, government, success in families. They were quite heartfelt, and a lot of the time my character really had to delve deep into their emotions and be emotionally overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, you actually got one Best Actor at the F Awards for Men's Group.
Yeah.
So, well done you. I mean, did it feel different honouring that part of your work rather than the AFI?
Yeah, look, they're no longer in existence, the F Awards. I remember that night I really had a great evening with Hugo Weaving. He was fantastic. I think he was up for Best Actor as well. Yeah. I always see Hugo and go, Dad, listen, I taught you everything I know, so, I'm pleased you're in this position. It's a running gag. I think recognition is good and it's a celebratory thing. The crew were there and, Michael and John L. and, Michael Joy did a great job and so did John L. The edit was massive, of course. So those awards are more a celebration.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do it. It's a combination. I mean, it takes a village to make a film and a series. So whilst you're in front of the camera, you know, you've got all this support around you that works well. But look, they're lovely to have.
Yeah.
I've got the Logies up here in the office at the moment.
Yep.
They were in the shed for a long while.
Well, they shouldn't have been there. Now they're in the proper place.
That's right, yeah.
You went into directing and producing as well for Hodges.
Yeah, that's right.
Adapted from Rod Reed's play.
Yeah.
What drew you to that material?
Look, it was a Fiona Press, and we did the Sydney Theatre Company, David Williamson's play together and toured. We were talking, and Fiona and myself produced the stage play for Codgers. And, you know, that just came about through, let's see if we could raise some money, let's produce it ourselves. Then Riverside, Robert Grubb came on, Wayne Harrison came on. And for the film, I raised money from Seniors Australia because they had helped us with the stage play. And then, we shot the film in 3 days. And
wow.
That's with Ronnie Hadrick and, you know, it was
great actors.
Shane Porteous, Ronnie Fall.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. And, you know, that still gets played on Seniors Weeks and all that sort of stuff. Beautiful play. But it was then we realised that Australian Theatre Live came into play because we thought, well, let's get stage plays and film them in situ. And we discovered that whilst we tweaked the stage play a little for the filming, it didn't really work. Older audiences were fine with longer scenes, but people are used to shorter scenes, etc., and a screenplay. Then we thought, well, NT Live, National Theatre Live, are screening all these plays. Why don't we see Australian plays? Well, you know, let's see if we can do that. So that's when, it was almost 10 years ago, we did our first play at the Ensemble Theatre. We filmed. And it's been a journey, that's to say the least. We have 31 productions now. Yeah.
The thing is that we've talked about you as an actor, a performer, director, producer, teacher, observer of human behaviour and corporates, etc., etc. This has all brought you to this moment of, you know, you've been doing it for a long time now, but Australian Theatre Live. Wonderful, wonderful. A project that seems to bring together so many strands of your life in the industry, you know.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
No one's really said it that way, but... Yeah, it is. It's like...
But it does. It's incorporating everything that you've done. But what we'd like to do now for our listeners is let them have a little clip and just listen to that and let the listeners know what it's about.
I was gripped.
I thought it was incredible.
I felt this kind of elation. I was just totally mesmerised by the costume, the lights, the story.
It's so incredible how Australian Theatre Live manages to capture that intimacy.
You see everything.
You get to hear the crisp sound quality. You get to see the actors right up close and really go through the emotions with them.
You don't miss a word, you don't miss a beat. There is such clarity to the storytelling.
It's like standing on the stage and being able to walk up to the actor and look right at them.
We really honour the show and the theatre and the director's intention for that theatre.
Theatre digitally is the future of the art form, and it's one of the things that will keep it alive.
It's the place where magic really does come to life.
Oh, Grant, that looks amazing. And listeners, if you can, have a look on YouTube because it's very visual as well. Now, Grant, can you tell us what the sense of the mission behind Australian Theatre Live is about?
Well, I guess we must know that we're a big country.
Yep.
There are many, many country towns and centres, as I mentioned earlier, that if you name a town, I've probably played it a long time ago. And as a matter of fact, that's what got me thinking, because I know that so many country town people love theatre. They love going to theatre.
Yes.
Yet they rarely do.
Yeah.
There are two things, distance and a lot has to do with cost. I mean, you're forking out 80 to 90 to 110 for a show at the Drama Theatre now, $110, $120.
Yep. Oh, yes. Tell me about it. Yeah, yeah.
So, for some people it's fine and for others it's not. And we're looking at both, the people that can afford it and the people that find the distance too difficult. And there are a lot of other people that are disabled.
Yeah.
That perhaps are restricted to their house or can't travel terribly far, but, love theatre. Well, Australian Theatre Live is here to help. One of our main vision statements is to more places for theatre, it's called.
Yeah.
So we want more places for theatre, and that means that an internet is available. It means by going to Australian Theatre Live, you get 7-day free trial. You're right, all the trailers are on YouTube. And you go to Australian Theatre Live and, sign up and away you go.
Yeah.
And you have 31 productions there, ranging from Neil Armfield's opera of The Platée through to Louis Naura's This Much Is True, filmed at the Old Fitz. So we have fringe theatre, mainstream theatre, Heather Mitchell in A Way, Norman Ahmed, which is a Alex Buzo play, which is in schools. There's so many different plays that are accessible, and we've got more that are coming on. We've got Julia, Justine Clark's performance, wonderful performance in Julia, the play about Julia Gillard. That's being released soon. We have Black Showgirls, so there is 2 First Nations plays, which I'm taking up to Brewarrina during NAIDOT Week, and Queanbeyan and Muswellbrook. They're in cinemas. We recently screened up near Coffs Harbour, Sawtell Cinema.
Yeah.
So it means that the feedback we get, because we film with up to 10 or 15 cameras, one performance only. So we might have 6 operators working on 6 cameras and the rest are fixed.
Oh, my goodness.
So if we're looking at something like Platée, where the orchestra, or we have Greg Arthur doing his jazz, the Great American Songbook. We have cameras set around bass players, piano. Sound is really important for us. We do a sound mix and a colour grade on it. So if you do sign up and you have a smart TV, do cast onto the TV, like screen it on your big TV with your big sound system, because that's what it's designed for.
Marvellous.
And it looks and sounds fantastic. It's not 2 cameras sitting up the back, like filming a football game. It's like a feature film, and we adhere to the story. And the directors and the creative people help us with the edit, so they're involved in it. We strictly make it theatre. It is theatre. That's what you're seeing. And it's 1 performance only.
Yeah.
So we don't film it over a week or, 3 performances, so you get bits and pieces. This is 1. So if someone drops something or something happens, a prop's missing, that's what it is.
And why is it so important to preserve Australian theatre specifically?
Well, I remember talking to Neil Armfield, who's, sort of a well-known theatre director, and he said, what you're doing is just fabulous. I wish out of all the productions I did at Belvoir Street, there is at least 60% of them I would have loved to have archived successfully, because it's lost. They disappear. Purists may say, that's what theatre's designed for, but I don't know, if you have the opportunity to preserve something and archive something in really good, pristine, high-end quality, 4K, do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when the curtain comes down on that final performance, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is.
I believe also that performers and everyone involved in the stage production totally remunerated and protected.
Yep, that's true. We have an agreement with the MEAA Actors Equity.
Yep.
So all actors are paid, as well as their normal payment, are paid for the filming. So are the designers, sound designers, directors. The writer has 10% fee, 10% ongoing. The actors have back end once that's net. So, it's worked out that everyone has a go. And just on top of that, this time next year, or actually by February next year, I will have 5 streaming outlets in the UK alone, 2 in New York.
Wow.
So Marquee, Theatre Channel, Digital Theatre Plus all have our films, not all of them. Broadway On Demand have 14 of our films. 14 are captures of our plays. And I'm getting people signing up from America because it hits my phone when someone, pays $7.99 for a month.
Yeah.
And Norway, Germany, Finland, Sweden, UK, America, New York.
It's wonderful.
People globally are watching Australian plays.
Yeah, yeah.
And quite a few of them will watch a play and they're an artistic director of the Dallas Theatre Company and they go, oh, boy, I wouldn't mind doing that one.
Yeah.
So then the playwright gets contacted and the play's performed.
Fabulous. So it's a win-win all around. Marvellous.
That's what we keep telling the federal government.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we slip between the cracks.
Yeah.
Even though we film with cameras and do all that, Screen Australia, in their guidelines, do not support us. So we can't even put in an application to Screen Australia or Screen New South Wales because it's not an original screenplay. It's an original play. It's an Australian play. That's all we have. And Creative Australia, that's the old Arts Council, the door's slightly ajar. It's slightly ajar.
Yeah.
And Create New South Wales, to be fair, have supported us this year and next year for project screening. So they're supporting NAIDOC Week and Girl Band launch with Riverside coming up. So, the support is there. And we're doing the Monologue Collective. We're filming, which are monologues for the high school certificate students.
Marvellous.
Yes, but the main thrust is missing. So we're reliant on philanthropic donations.
Yeah.
We have full DGR status.
And please remind our listeners again where they can go to donate because it's such a wonderfully worthy cause.
Yeah, you'll see a donate button on the AustralianTheatre.live website. And that will lead you to the donation page. And as I said, any donation over $2 is totally tax deductible, 100%.
Yeah.
So, and, sponsors are really difficult nowadays because it's all about numbers.
Yeah.
But we're slowly getting better and better.
Yeah. Well, we wish you every success with Australian Theatre Live. I mean, everything that's happened in your life professionally and otherwise, I'm sure, has brought you to this place, this wonderful place where you're, all
the dots are joined.
Yes, all the dots are joined.
Yeah.
Everything has brought you to this place.
And it's funny, that's the first time I've really thought about it that way. But, it is interesting, all the aspects of the business,
Yeah. Well, thank you, Grant, for your warmth, your stories and your enormous contribution to Australian performance. I mean, it's wonderful that you're continuing on and just the very, very best of everything for it.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast having a ramble through the past.
What more is there to say? Everything Grant has done in his life has brought him to his passion for Australian Theatre Live. Having known Grant all these years, I can see why he was so adored by his viewers, winning Most Popular Actor for a Country Practice, let alone Best Actor for Men's Group. So good, in fact, the role made him sick. Now that's dedication to the arts. Sad that Australian Theatre Live falls between the cracks with funding. So, if you can, please donate to this worthy cause. Now, don't forget to subscribe to From Set to Sofa. And please tell your friends about our beloved podcast. A bientôt.
Thanks for listening with an open heart. But now it's time for us to part. So tell everybody that you know to tune in next week to Lulu Show. From set to sofa is where it's at. And Lulu, darling, just loves the chat. She talks to stars with grace and style. Lulu sure will make you smile.